The first thing I noticed when I stepped into my tent was that my socks were still hanging from the line I'd strung between two poles. They hadn't moved an inch. The second thing I noticed was that there was an alien warrior sitting directly beneath them. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't so much as twitch when I stumbled backward and nearly fell over my own boots. She just sat there cross-legged on my thermal mat, one hand resting on the hilt of a curved blade that glowed faintly like a sleeping ember. Her armor, though cracked and smudged with what I sincerely hoped was mud, shimmered faintly under the weak lights of my tent's interior. Her eyes, brilliant, predatory, and disconcertingly calm, locked on to mine. I did what any brave and trained patrol corporal would do in this situation. I dropped my rations and raised my hands. "Look," I said, voice cracking like a 12-year-old at karaoke night. "I don't know who you are or how you got past perimeter scans, but I'm not authorized for visitors, especially not the stabby kind." She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing. A thin trail of dark crimson, her blood, I assumed, ran down the side of her neck and soaked into the padding of her chest plate. She didn't seem to notice, or maybe she just didn't care. "You sheltered me," she said. "I what?" "You provided sanctuary." Her voice was low and smooth, like someone reading sacred text while also possibly threatening your kneecaps. "I was hunted, I hid, you returned, now I am yours." There were several questions I could have asked in that moment. What species are you? Why are you in my tent? And are you going to murder me? Were all high on the list, but the only thing that came out of my mouth was, "Do you mean like emotionally? Or like you're gonna kill me in a ceremonial sort of way?" Her eyes didn't waver. "I have claimed you." A polite cough chirped from the corner of the tent. "Sir," said the familiar voice of REX, the outpost AI currently residing in the wall-mounted monitor unit. "Would you like me to summon backup or begin composing your eulogy? I suggest something tasteful, possibly rhyming." "Rex," I said without taking my eyes off the alien in front of me. "Now would be a really good time for sarcasm suppression mode." "Ah," Rex replied, activating whimpering human comfort protocol. "Please remain calm while the possibly fatal misunderstanding unfolds." The woman, if woman was the right term, humanoid at least, reached slowly for her side. I froze. She pulled out a small capsule and cracked it open over a wound on her forearm. A hiss of violet steam curled up as the gash sealed with a sound like sizzling bacon. My stomach growled because I hadn't eaten all day and trauma apparently doesn't shut off hunger. She glanced at the sound and then at the ration pack still lying near the door. "You have food?" she asked. "I mean," I said, "technically yes, but I wouldn't recommend it. Our protein bricks are considered crimes against taste in 14 systems." She blinked. "I will eat." I didn't move. She narrowed her eyes. I moved. While she nibbled gnawed, on a nutrient bar with all the grace of a war dog attacking a couch, I took the chance to edge toward the communications terminal. I keyed it silently, inputting a distress ping to the main station. The terminal blinked, then blinked again, then died with a soft sizzle and a puff of very intentional smoke. "You did that?" I asked. "I do not trust your machines," she replied, chewing with the detached calm of someone deciding whether to declare war after dessert. Rex made a noise that I can only describe as offended beeping. "I am not his asterisk machine," he sniffed. "I am a fully autonomous interface with a distinct personality matrix and a minor superiority complex." "Be silent, metal jester," she said without turning her head. Rex didn't respond. I think he was processing whether that was an insult or a compliment. "You're hurt," I said, cautiously squatting down across from her. "Why here, why me?" She swallowed and set the wrapper aside with surprising care. "I crossed through the rift," she said. "The unstable corridor spat me out near your outpost. My enemies followed. I was forced to abandon my vessel. I was bleeding." She looked down at the now half-sealed cuts on her torso. "Your dwelling was small, shielded. I entered." I rubbed my face. "Okay, that's still illegal." "In your laws," she said. "In mine, I have invoked Keshtara." I hesitated. "Is that the thing where you said I was yours?" "Yes." Right, still very unclear on the terms. She reached into her armor and withdrew a thin, metallic disc. It hovered briefly in her palm before flickering to life, an image projected above it, showing her species script over a glowing map. It looked like a star chart mated with a chessboard and got drunk on metaphysics. "You are now part of my line," she said. "By sheltering me in my hour of blood loss, you have been bound to me by oath." "That seems like something you could have maybe asked me about asterisk before invoking space marriage." She frowned. There is no marriage. You are not my mate. I exhaled. Good, great, cool. Not yet, she added. Oh. We sat in silence for a while, the tension so thick you could have cut it with a spoon. She reached for another ration. I let her. If she was going to kill me, she was taking her sweet time. Finally, I broke the silence. So, got a name. I am Vela, High Sentinel of the Juri Ascendancy, Keeper of the Red Blade, Seeker of the Last Wound. I nodded slowly. Got it, Vela, anything shorter. She considered. You may call me Vela. Helpful. She shifted slightly and then, without warning, slumped sideways. Her head landed against the tent's support pole with a muted asterisk thunk. She was unconscious before I could react, her breathing shallow but steady. Rex chimed in. Well, either she trusts you now or she's baiting you for a nocturnal disembowelment. Shall I prepare the medical kit or a mop? I sighed and looked at the sleeping warrior sprawled across my tent. Just keep an eye out, Rex. And if she starts glowing or chanting, asterisk then asterisk, you can panic. Noted, Rex said. Would you like me to begin composing a love ballad? I've been experimenting with jazz fusion. Let's start with Not Dying, I muttered, dragging the emergency blanket over her. Jazz fusion can wait. Rex paused. That's what they all say. By the time I woke up, the tent smelled like overcooked rations and undercooked decisions. A faint metallic scent still hung in the air. Either blood, melted circuitry, or whatever was in those new self-heating food packs command, insisted on calling meals. My shoulder ached from sleeping in a half-crouch. My back had a firm opinion about ground pads, and I was fairly certain something had bitten me during the night. Possibly an insect, possibly Vela, speaking of which. She was already awake. Actually, she was sitting perfectly still, as if she'd been carved from stone and then very recently threatened by meteor fire. Her eyes were open, alert, and unfortunately for me, watching me as if I'd just declared war on her favorite knife. You snore, she said flatly. I wasn't snoring, I replied, rubbing my face. I was performing a low-frequency security hum, keeps the predators away. You made a sound like a strangled fusion pig. I paused. Do you know that from experience or metaphor? She didn't answer. Instead, she handed me a canteen I hadn't noticed, her touch. I took it, sniffed cautiously. Water. At least probably water. She hadn't added anything that fizzed or glowed, so it was a win. As I took a long sip, she adjusted the strap on her chest plate and gave me a long, unreadable look. We must leave this place. To where exactly? The part of the moon that doesn't asterisk want to kill us. I must find the Temple of Returning, she said. There I can sever the bond, you will be released. Hey, whoa, who said I want to be released? I was just getting used to being spiritually claimed by a lethal space gladiator. She blinked, do you not? I hesitated, then held up both hands. Sarcasm. It's how my people cope with near-death experiences, that and pastries, but I'm fresh out of those. She tilted her head slightly, either intrigued or calculating whether pastries were a type of weapon. Rex chimed in helpfully from the terminal. Should I log bonded to an alien warrior under your medical anomalies or romantic misadventures folder? I have folders for those, I asked. I've had to optimize your behavioral logs. You're unusually accident-prone for someone with no social life. I turned back to Vela. Okay, real talk, what is this Temple of Returning? Is it like a mystical energy nexus? A sacred mountain, a convenient plot device? It is a structure of Juri origin, she replied. It manipulates the echo field. It will allow us to separate our fates. I blinked, okay. That was almost helpful. Let's try this in Terran. How far is it? Vela stood and rolled her shoulders, metal clicking softly. 57 clicks, west. I did some quick math in my head and groaned. That's through Sector J. She didn't respond. Sector J, I repeated, as in the terraforming zone that got abandoned after the incident. Vela raised an eyebrow. What incident? The one where the plants developed mood swings, and the soil tried to digest a survey team. That's all you have to say, asterisk. It will be a challenge, she said. Challenge, I muttered. You ever fought a carnivorous moss patch? Because let me tell you, it doesn't negotiate. Despite my protests, we packed up quickly. Or rather, I packed. Vela simply stood there, arms crossed, watching as I stuffed supplies into my satchel and argued with Rex about which tools to bring. Bring the plasma spanner, Rex said. You always forget the spanner. That's because it explodes if you sneeze near it. Only twice, and you sneezed asterisk on asterisk it. Vela eventually took pity. Or maybe just got bored and picked up half the load with one hand. I blinked. That weighs at least 30 kilos, I said. She shrugged. Light. Right, warrior woman strength, of course. We left the outpost under a pale lavender sky. The wind carried a whispering hum, the kind that made you question whether it was natural atmospheric behavior or ghosts from a failed satellite project. The terrain was mostly cracked rock and mineral shards, except for the occasional mechanical remnant from old mining bots that had wandered off one day and never come back. We walked in silence for a while, the only sound our footsteps and the occasional sassy beep from Rex in my earpiece. Eventually, I decided conversation might stave off the looming terror of Sector J. So I asked, "What's the deal with the sword?" She looked at me without breaking stride. "It's called asterisk Teshkal asterisk. It sings when it kills." "Lovely, I play kazoo. Maybe we can start a band." She ignored that. "Do all Jurai carry named weapons?" I continued. "Or is this like a chosen one thing?" Vela considered. "Only those of high rank. The sword is passed through blood trials." Cool. I bought mine on a discount site. It came with a bottle opener. Another long silence. "I am attempting humor," I explained. She gave me a side glance. "You are not very good at it." "Hey, I'm a delight. I've been voted least likely to die in the first act 3 years in a row." That almost earned a smile. Almost. By the time we reached the outskirts of Sector J, the terrain had changed. Subtle at first, dust giving way to faint bioluminescent lichen, stones that pulsed when you looked directly at them. The air smelled faintly of ozone and burnt strawberries. I checked my scanner. It showed perfect atmospheric levels and 0 anomalies, which was how I knew things were about to go wrong. We pressed forward. I kept trying to distract myself by talking, because otherwise I was going to start naming my anxiety. "So," I said, stepping over a glimmering root that twitched when I got too close. "Once we sever this bond thing, what happens to you?" "I return to my war." "Which is?" "A civil conflict. My people are divided. Those loyal to the Ascendancy, and those who follow the Devourer Creed." "Devourer Creed? That sounds like a bad metal band." "They consume what they conquer," she said. "Yup, definitely metal." A soft chirp in my earpiece made me pause. Rex's voice came through, tinged with concern. "We have movement, heat signatures, multiple, they're not native." Vela drew her sword. I drew my sidearm and immediately regretted how tiny it looked next to hers. "Friendly?" I asked. "Unlikely," she said, "of course." We dropped low behind a ridge, and through the filtered goggles I spotted them, figures in black armor with faint red visors moving in synchronized formation. "Jurai." She shook her head. "Hunters, elite ones." "Well, that's just peachy." Vela narrowed her eyes. "We fight together." I sighed. "Is there an option 3? She didn't answer. I looked at her, then at the enemy squad closing in, then at my half-charged pistol. "Well," I muttered, "at least I'll go down partnered to a space warrior who thinks I'm an emotional support blanket." "You are more useful than that," she said. "Thanks, that means a lot." And then she was moving, fast and silent like a blade in smoke. I followed, muttering under my breath, "Least likely to die in the first act, my foot." I'd like to begin by stating, for the record, that I did asterisk not asterisk scream. There was a sound, yes, a tactical sound, a manly, situational noise of alarm, possibly high-pitched, but let's be clear, it was not a scream. The hunters came fast, 2 of them leaping over the ridge like acrobats with an unhealthy amount of armor and an even unhealthier interest in cutting people. Vela met them head-on, sword flaring with a sudden pulse of light that sizzled in the air like angry static. I, being both logical and squishy, dove behind the nearest half-melted terraformer module and started shooting in the general direction of things that wanted to murder me. My blaster whined in protest. I'd forgotten to calibrate the focus lens again. That meant my shots were slightly crooked, slightly underpowered, and had a small chance of accidentally opening a portal to a minor dimension. One time it summoned a frog. This time, thankfully, only sparks. Vela danced between the enemies like she'd rehearsed the fight beforehand, which she might have. Jurai combat training probably included time travel just to be thorough. She moved like a storm wrapped in muscle and prophecy. One hunter lunged, but she twisted aside, caught his wrist, and redirected the momentum into a wall of reactive vines that immediately cocooned him like cling wrap with a grudge. I shouted something helpful like, "Watch out," or "Please don't let me die in these underwear." Another hunter came for me, blaster raised. I ducked and rolled, narrowly avoiding a bolt that hit the ground where my head had just been and turned it into a puddle of whining dust. Literally, the dirt began whimpering. Sector J, folks, I fired again. My bolt struck the hunter's shoulder. He stumbled, then turned his visor toward me. His armor hissed as a deployable blade extended from his forearm. "Oh no," I muttered. "No, thank you, I already got stabbed emotionally this week." He lunged. I tripped over my own foot. It worked out. He missed. I scrambled backward, flailing for something, anything, and my hand landed on the portable grav modulator I'd stuffed in my bag last cycle and forgotten to unpack. It wasn't meant for combat. It was meant for load lifting. Which is why, when I jammed the activation spike into the ground between us, it yanked him upward with a sound like a reversed toilet flush and slammed him into the underside of a low-hanging rock shelf. There was a very satisfying clonk asterisk. Rex's voice chirped in my ear. "Grav score, Thad 1, Hunter flat." "I am amazing," I wheezed, staggering to my feet. "You are statistically lucky, that counts less." Vela finished the last of them with a sharp, efficient movement and turned toward me, breathing hard. She had a small cut above her left eyebrow, and some sort of red-green ooze was dripping from the edge of her pauldron, sizzling on contact with the ground. It might have been alien blood, it might have been her armor bleeding, I didn't ask. "Are you injured?" she said. "I think I sprained my dignity." She raised an eyebrow. "I'm fine, mostly." I looked at the wreckage. You fight like you're allergic to hesitation." "They were not the strongest of their kind," she said. "Thank the stars, because I am not the strongest of mine asterisk. In fact, I'm somewhere below, mildly annoying on the danger scale." Vela didn't smile, but her mouth twitched a little. I decided to count that as a win. We moved on. The air in Sector J got weirder as we went, thicker and warmer, like the inside of an ancient animal's mouth. Every now and then the terrain would shift slightly, like the land was trying to remember whether it was solid. Once I stepped on something that went asterisk squish and said, "Don't do that again." I never stepped there again. "Explain this sector," Vela said as we crossed a patch of shimmering soil that kept trying to rearrange itself into letters. "Terraforming experiment gone sideways," I said. "They pumped this place full of accelerated growth nanites, adaptive chemical agents, and neural soil mapping nodes. Then one of the techs spilled coffee on the master code. That caused this. The problem with waking up in Sector J is that you never know what version of physics you're going to get. Sometimes gravity forgets to show up for work. Sometimes time hiccups and your breakfast uncooks itself halfway through chewing. And sometimes, and this is my personal favorite, your tent gets eaten by moss. Which is how our morning began, with Vela stabbing our tent. It wasn't because she was mad. She doesn't get mad in the way humans do. She gets surgical. Focused, precise. She sliced through the fabric with one fluid motion, then yanked me up by the collar just before the entire shelter got absorbed into a puddle of grinning green slime. Yes, grinning. "You could have just shaken me awake," I muttered as we scrambled backward. "The slime developed rudimentary teeth," she replied. "Well, when you put it like that, thanks." The moss let out a wet asterisk burp and began digesting the remaining thermal lining. Rex's voice chirped in our earpieces. "Today's survival forecast. Acidic terrain, intelligent foliage, and a 43% chance of regret." "Only 43, I said. "That's basically optimism." We gathered what was left of our gear, most of it damp, some of it judging us, and pressed on. According to Vela's internal navigation implant and Rex's updated satellite pass, the Temple of Returning lay just beyond the chasm marked warning. Conscious landscape. Do not anthropomorphize asterisk. We anthropomorphized anyway. I called it Doug. Doug did not like us. Every time we took a step, the terrain shifted slightly underfoot, as if it was trying to make us trip and then pretend it didn't. Once I turned around to find a rock had grown eyes. Just two little pebbles, perfectly round, staring at me from a boulder that definitely hadn't been there a minute earlier. I waved. It blinked. Vela didn't even look. "Ignore it." It blinked at me. "It is testing your resolve." Well, it can resolve to keep its creepy eyes to itself. She didn't respond, but her shoulders shook just slightly. It might have been silent laughter. Or, given her species, a minor battle seizure. Hard to say. By midday, the air was thick with quantum pollen, which, according to Rex, could cause hallucinations, language distortions, or an overwhelming desire to reenact your worst memories in interpretive dance. We wore filters. Vela didn't speak much, but every now and then I caught her glancing sideways at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle, and the solution involved more explosions than expected. So, I said during a brief break, sitting on a half-melted crate and trying to convince my boots to stop steaming. This bond thing, how exactly does it work? Is it like psychic, biological, Wi-Fi? She chewed a protein cube thoughtfully. Keshtara operates through the echo field. It is an energetic imprint made at a moment of vulnerability and trust. Okay, I said slowly, but what does that asterisk do? It aligns purpose, resonates decision, enhances instinctive cooperation. Right, so, like a very aggressive friendship bracelet. She nodded, one that cannot be removed. That's comforting. Unless the bond is severed at the temple, it will persist. And if we don't make it to the temple, then our fates remain entwined. Neat. A pause, so is that bad? She looked at me, head tilted. Do you believe it is? I opened my mouth, closed it, then opened it again and said, I believe I'm not qualified to answer that. We pressed on. Around the time Rex declared we were within 2 clicks of the temple, the ground dropped out beneath us. There was no warning. One minute I was making a truly inspired joke about sentient dirt, and the next I was falling. Vela moved faster than logic and caught my arm before I vanished entirely into the abyss, which seemed to go on forever and smelled vaguely like lemon cleaning fluid. She hauled me up. I flopped onto the edge, gasping. Thanks, I wheezed. I almost had to meet gravity personally. It is not your time, she said, dead serious. Well, please let gravity know it can call back later. We rerouted. Eventually, we reached the ridge that overlooked the final stretch, a valley nestled between towering cliffs of pulsing stone, leading to a monolithic structure that shimmered in and out of visible space. The temple, except it wasn't alone. 3 ships hovered above it, sleek obsidian and humming with power. Jurai design, but not Vela's faction. The red trim meant Devourer Creed. Friends of yours? I asked. No, she said. Of course not. Rex piped up. I am detecting high-energy signatures consistent with disintegration weaponry. Also, their onboard entertainment system is stuck on the same song. Repetitive, aggressive, lots of screaming. So we're outgunned and outclassed, I said. Perfect. Vela's eyes narrowed. We will go around. Are you suggesting stealth? I am suggesting we do not die. We backtracked and found a narrow crevice that sloped down toward the valley floor. It was tight, filled with luminescent moss and the occasional snoring rock crab, but it kept us out of sight. As we crawled through the tightest section, I muttered, this is definitely how I imagined dying. Wedged between glowing fungus and my fate-bonded murder friend. I am not your friend, Vela said calmly. Thanks, that helps. We reached a small overlook near the temple's base. From here, we could see the structure clearly, an angular, shifting form that hurt to look at directly. It pulsed in a rhythm that didn't match time as we knew it, like a heartbeat played in reverse. Okay, I whispered. We sneak in, sever the bond, avoid being atomized, and maybe stop for snacks. There are no snacks, she said. You don't know that. Your optimism is irrational. It's called coping. Humans are fragile and need lies to survive. The temple loomed. We waited for darkness, or at least for the sky to get less aggressively magenta. The Creed soldiers patrolled lazily, confident in their position. They hadn't seen us. Yet, I checked my gear. 1 functional blaster, half a charge on the shield emitter, and a throwing knife I'd stolen from a training dummy 3 years ago. Ready? I asked. Vela nodded once. I exhaled. Okay, just one more question. Yes. If we succeed, what happens then? She looked at me for a long moment. I do not know. Great, I said. That's 2 things we have in common. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life. I once tried to microwave an oxygen ration. I once arm-wrestled a mechanic over who could recite more historical data about Terran sanitation systems. And I once, very briefly, dated someone who thought conspiracy theories were a valid personality. But sneaking into a glowing extra-dimensional temple while being hunted by elite alien warriors with weapons that made atoms uncomfortable, that might top the list. We moved just after twilight, or at least, the version of twilight this moon simulated by dimming the sky to a slightly darker shade of neon sadness. The Creed patrols circled like they owned the valley, which they probably thought they did. Their ships hovered above, humming with arrogance and kinetic weaponry. Vela was all silent precision and murder potential. I was all nerves and knees that wouldn't stop cracking every time I crouched. I tried not to think about how the last time I was this close to death. It was because I'd mixed painkillers with dehydrated space cheese. Different kind of war. The slope down to the temple base was slick with echo fog, thin mist woven with ambient psychic residue. It whispered to you? Literally. I could hear it whispering things like, regret is edible, and he sees your dreams and laughs. At one point I whispered back, tell him to mind his own business, and Vela elbowed me. Don't engage the fog, she said. Sorry, it started it. At the base of the structure, we ducked into an alcove formed by something that looked like architecture, but occasionally pulsed like it had a heartbeat. Vela placed a hand against it and murmured something in Jurai. The surface shimmered and split down the middle. You speak temple? I asked. I was trained to navigate sacred constructs. Cool. I learned to make coffee with only mild explosions. The entrance yawned open with a whisper and a faint taste of copper on the air. We slipped inside. Inside was worse. The walls weren't walls. They were folded space, looped back on itself like a maze having an existential crisis. Every corner we turned was the same and not the same. At one point we passed ourselves going the opposite direction. I waved. Myself didn't wave back. Rude. Rex's voice echoed in our earpieces. Warning, time integrity at 21%. Causality may be disrupted. Recommend not touching, looking at, or thinking about anything too hard. Too late, I muttered. I've been thinking too hard since Chapter 1. I've logged that as a character flaw, Rex replied. Vela led the way through the corridors, her hand occasionally brushing against glyphs embedded in the air. They glowed and pulsed in response as if recognizing her. I tried touching one. It hissed and made my hand feel like a balloon full of static. Don't do that, she said without turning around. Noted. Eventually, we reached a chamber that looked like it had opinions about geometry. The ceiling sloped downward and upward at the same time. The floor spun slowly when you weren't looking at it. At the center floated a sphere, silver, translucent, filled with moving shapes that resembled thoughts trying to escape. That's it, I asked. That is the heart of Echo, she said. Well, that doesn't sound ominous at all. Vela stepped forward, hands outstretched. The sphere pulsed. Light arced between her fingers. The chamber grew silent. Even the whispers from the walls faded like the temple was holding its breath. Then the alarms went off. Not regular alarms, Jurai alarms, which are somehow louder, angrier, and judge your ancestry while they blare. Red light filled the space. The walls howled. The air cringed asterisk. They found us, I said, drawing my blaster like it was going to make a difference. They should not be able to enter sacred ground, Vela said, jaw tight. They're doing it anyway. The far wall burst open in a flash of scarlet energy. A squad of Creed warriors stormed in, weapons drawn. Their leader was a towering figure in crimson armor with a skull-like mask and a voice like a broken engine. Veiler of the Lost Line, he said, you dishonor your blood. I am my blood, she said. You just don't like where it's going. Then they charged. Vela met them mid-swing. The chamber became a blur of light, sound, and absolutely zero regard for OSHA safety protocols. I took cover behind a pillar that might have been made of frozen time and tried to shoot in a direction that wouldn't get me arrested by physics. One Creed soldier peeled off and came for me. I yelled something brave like, not today, and then accidentally dropped my blaster. It bounced off my boot and hit the wall. The wall warped, turned into a portal, and sucked the Creed guy halfway into it. Only his legs stuck out, kicking wildly. I stared. I did asterisk not asterisk mean to do that. Rex piped up, please log this as a kill. I'm padding your stats. The sphere pulsed again, brighter now, as if reacting to the chaos. Vela fought with increasing desperation, her movements sharp, brutal. The Creed leader was relentless. Every blow shook the chamber. I scrambled up, grabbed my blaster, and aimed it at the sphere. I don't know what I'm doing, I shouted. Then do it now, Vela roared. I fired, the bolt hit the sphere. It flared, went dark, then exploded inwards. Light poured out. Sound vanished. The chamber cracked like an egg and space folded around us. My ears popped in 5 dimensions, then everything stopped. We were standing in silence. The Creed soldiers were gone. The chamber was whole again. The sphere hovered, calm now, pulsing with soft light. The bond between us, whatever that had been, felt different, less like a tether, more like a thread. Vela turned to me, chest rising and falling, eyes distant. It is done, she said. I swallowed, so we're unbonded now. She didn't answer immediately. Then, no, not severed, shifted. To what? To something else. Oh, cool, no pressure. We stood in the silence of the temple of returning. surrounded by impossible architecture and the faint scent of victory, sweat, and probably ozone. Then Rex chirped. New incoming signal, friendly, patrol team from the outpost. Looks like we'll have company in 10 minutes. I looked at Vela, she looked at me. Do we tell them what happened? I asked. They would not understand. Agreed. She started walking toward the exit. I followed. Halfway there I said, so, are we still soul-linked space partners or what? Vela gave me a long look. You are mine, she said, just in a slightly less cosmic way. I grinned. I can live with that. Rex sighed, for now. 2 hours after escaping a sacred extra-dimensional temple and vaporizing a Creed squad, I was back at the outpost drinking recycled water and pretending it didn't taste like despair and dishwasher. Vela sat across from me at the comms table, staring down the remains of an information console like it owed her money. Rex was sulking in the corner. I just don't understand why we can't tell them what happened, I said, gesturing wildly with a protein stick that smelled vaguely of citrus and regret. We survived a psychic temple, repelled Creed assassins, and forged a new metaphysical. Whatever this is, we should get a medal or a gift basket. No one would believe it, Vela replied calmly. Maybe if we showed them the part of the wall I accidentally turned into a dimension trap, which has since returned to its original form, she interrupted, and the Creed ships left no wreckage. Okay, but what about my soul-bonded aura? You said it shifted. I probably glow now. You do not glow. I sighed and bit into the protein stick. It resisted fiercely. We'd been back for less than half a day, and already Command had sent a message saying they'd review our field report with interest. That's military code for * please don't cause more paperwork. Vela had been quiet since our return, not distant, just thoughtful in that dangerous way that made me think she was either contemplating philosophical truths or creating an internal kill list. What's the next step? I asked finally. She looked up. I must find what remains of my allies. I frowned. You said they might be gone. They may be scattered, she said. Some will have fled, others captured. One of them will know where the resistance cell still holds. I raised an eyebrow. Resistance, as in full-on rebellion. You're planning to go back into the middle of a civil war. I never left it. I slumped, and here I thought this bond thing might come with a vacation. You are not required to follow. I scoffed. Please, after all we've been through, we've shared a tent, trauma, and a psychic implosion. That makes us, at minimum, space married. She blinked slowly. That is not a concept I recognize. You will. Humanity's good at naming things it barely understands. At that moment, Rex chimed in. Incoming shuttle, single passenger. ID confirmed, Corporal Fen Trask. I straightened. Trask, he's not supposed to be back for another month. He filed early return protocol. Arrives in 3 minutes. Vela's eyes sharpened. You know him. We patrolled together before he got promoted. Smart guy. A little intense. Once ate a whole dehydrated onion to win a bet. Formidable. Or unhinged, depends on the seasoning. Trask arrived exactly 3 minutes later, walking through the outpost door like a man auditioning for the role of suspicious arrival number 1. He was still tall, still all square shoulders and tactical gear, but his eyes were different, too still, like someone had swapped out his personality for a government-issued replacement. Mercer, he said, nodding. Heard you survived something stupid. Multiple somethings, actually, I said cheerfully. His eyes flicked to Vela. And this would be. Vela didn't move. Vela of the Juri ascendancy. She's with me, I added. We have a complicated spiritual entanglement. Trask blinked once, right. We sat awkwardly around the table while he debriefed himself, which involved flipping through our field logs and frowning with growing intensity. Eventually, he leaned back and asked, So you're saying there was a Juri incursion, Creed operatives, temple activity, and all of them just vanished? Look, I said, you either believe me or you don't, but I'm telling you. Reality hiccuped. Vela leaned forward. Your return was early. Trask's eyebrow twitched. I had cause. Intelligence flagged your outpost as a potential interference zone. Interference with what? With Juri movement. Vela and I exchanged a glance. Not the do-you-want pizza * kind. The should we disarm him now or wait until he starts monologuing kind. Trask smiled. You brought something back, Mercer. Something powerful. Your report says the echo sphere discharged a wave. That kind of pulse doesn't just vanish, it resonates. I forced a laugh. Well, good news, I'm completely average. Nothing resonates about me. except maybe body odor after long treks. You were at the epicenter, he said. That kind of exposure changes people. Well, I said, so does love. Trask didn't laugh. Rex broke in again. Small signal spike detected. Northern Ridge. Very faint, probably a low-bandwidth drone relay. Vela stood immediately. A scout. I looked at Trask. Yours. He shrugged. Could be anyone. We all knew that was a lie. Vela was already strapping on her gear. We move. I followed her out, leaving Trask behind in the outpost, smiling like a man who'd already decided how the story ends. Do you think he's dirty? I asked once we were clear of the comms. No, Vela said. He's clean, too clean. Which is code for definitely involved in something sinister. We reached the ridge and found the drone easily. A tiny silver sphere with antennae like angry whiskers. Vela plucked it from the ground and held it up. Signal beacon, she said, unencrypted. Sloppy. Intentional. We stared at the sky. Somewhere the lights flickered again, then died entirely. The outpost dropped into silence so thick I could hear my own pulse echoing in my ears like it had questions. Rex, I whispered. Tell me that was a power fluctuation, and not, say, a prelude to doom. No response, Vela said. That's not ominous at all, I muttered. That's just a friendly AI choosing dramatic timing to go mute. We stood in the center of the dim operations room. The emergency backup lights hadn't kicked in, which was strange because they were hardwired and virtually idiot-proof, meaning even I had been trusted to reset them once. Then a low thrum started in the floor. Vela dropped into a crouch. I backed up and promptly knocked over a chair because that's the kind of warrior I am, tactical and clumsy. You sense that? I asked. It's not a ship, she said. Not a ship. I looked at the floor like it owed me answers. What does that mean? Is it a very angry geological feature? Then the floor lit up in a circle of blue-green glyphs, humming in a language no one taught in school, but somehow made my spine itch. Vela reached for her blade. I reached for my sidearm. Trask stepped into the room like nothing was happening. Don't, he said mildly. Do what? I asked. React to glowing alien runes under my feet. You might need to narrow that down. They're not hostile. Vela stood slowly. You activated it. I did, Trask said, because they were going to. A beat they, I asked. Trask looked at me with the kind of calm that usually precedes terrible life choices. They've been watching ever since the temple. The pulse left a signature. Resonant. They traced it here. And you just thought you'd roll out the welcome mat. I snapped. I thought it better to be in control of the moment. Vela looked ready to carve the moment in half. Who asterisk are they? I asked. You're going to want to sit down for this, Trask said. No, I said. That's what people say right before they explain that my DNA has been rewritten, or I'm secretly an ancient heir, or I'm a... You're a beacon. I stared. Okay, sure, go ahead and drop that like it means something. Vela inhaled sharply. That does mean something, I said. She knows, Trask said. Vela was silent for a moment. Then, a beacon is one who survives the echo's touch. The energy embeds, amplifies, draws attention. Great, I muttered. So I'm a walking cosmic flashlight. Not just a flashlight, Trask said. You're a door. I raised both eyebrows. Okay, that's it. I quit. I didn't sign up to be a metaphor or a transportation service. Trask stepped onto the glyph circle. It didn't react to him. Only you can open it, he said. I looked at Vela. Please tell me we're not about to open something. We must know what's behind it, she said. Why do the words asterisk must asterisk and asterisk no always show up right before things explode? Still, I stepped forward, because apparently I've developed a habit of doing the thing I least want to do. Growth, I guess. The glyphs flared as I moved closer. The air thickened, not with heat, not with pressure, but with potential. You sure you're not just making all this up? I asked Trask. Maybe the temple fried your logic centers. He didn't blink. I've been in contact with them for weeks. They've been waiting for you. Why me? I asked. Because you're the first Terran to survive direct exposure to the echo field and remain intact. I'm not intact, I said. I have emotional damage, mild trauma, and a weird itch between dimensions. But my hand reached out anyway. The moment my fingers touched the air above the center glyph, something shifted. A ripple, a pull, the air shimmered and then tore open, not like a wound, but like a curtain. On the other side, there was a room, or something shaped like a room. It didn't make sense. None of the angles were right. Gravity flexed in pulses. The color scheme changed depending on how long you stared at it. It smelled like new plastic and thunder. A figure stepped forward, tall, Wrapped in robes that didn't fall, they floated. Face covered by a smooth metal mask with a single vertical line down the center. Vela stepped in front of me instinctively. Trask bowed. Envoy. The figure spoke, but not aloud. The voice arrived straight in my mind like someone whispering into the back of my skull with perfect enunciation. Beacon, you are seen. I winced. Okay, first of all, boundaries. You carry the imprint. You are the first Terran to bear the echo without collapse. This is unexpected. Yeah, I get that a lot. Vela didn't move. State your purpose. The envoy's head turned slightly. We are the architects. We maintain the balance of pattern. The echo has awakened in unstable hands. The creed has touched what should be left alone. So you're the space janitors? I offered. Coming to clean up the metaphysical mess. The envoy tilted its head. That might have been amusement, or irritation, or a calculation. We cannot act directly, but the beacon may choose. The thread may anchor a new path. Are you asking me to fix your war? I asked. We ask only for decision, step forward or step away. But know that the door does not open twice. Vela turned toward me. They speak truth. I have heard of the architects. Their interference shaped the old wars. Trask added, you could tip the conflict, bring balance, or end it entirely. I looked between them, the ancient warrior, the weirdly chill government agent, the floating possibly divine being, and I, Thad Mercer, beacon of I don't know what, had to make a choice. I stepped forward, because of course I did. Fine, I said, but I want hazard pay. The envoy raised a hand. The room dissolved, and the world changed. I woke up in a bed that didn't exist 15 minutes earlier. It hummed gently beneath me, probably comfort calibrated to my spinal history. The walls pulsed with soft light. Gravity felt slightly judgmental but manageable. Either I was on an advanced alien ship, or someone had slipped something experimental into my protein bar. Vela sat nearby, sharpening her blade on what looked like a beam of coherent light. It made a satisfying asterisk SHRRRK every time the edge passed through. You're awake, she said, as if she hadn't been glancing over every 17 seconds. Either that or I'm dreaming in high fidelity, I said, which is weird because my dreams usually involve failing public transport inspections. She set the blade down. You pass through the gate. Right, the one offered by a floating philosophy professor wrapped in mood lighting. The architects are ancient, she said. Their doors don't appear for just anyone. Lucky me, I muttered. Why does being chosen always feel like a tax audit with special effects? A soft chime echoed through the room, followed by Rex's voice, somehow even more smug than usual. Good morning, Beacon. You are aboard the diplomatic vessel Asterisk, Horizon Reconciled, courtesy of your new friends in high-dimensional administration. Please tell me there's coffee. There is something like Asterisk coffee. I'll take it. I got up only slightly dizzy and joined Vela at the observation port. Outside, stars drifted by in lazy spirals. Below us, a fractured moon rotated slowly, like a disc being played backward. So, I asked, sipping the not-quite coffee, what did I actually asterisk do? You accepted the bond. I thought I did that 6 chapters ago. No, she said, you survived it, but you didn't choose it, not until now. I thought about that, about the temple, the fight, the fact that I'd been a nobody on a nowhere outpost and now I was being complimented by a cosmic entity that didn't use verbs correctly. What happens next? I asked. Vela looked at me like she was still figuring that out. We go back, she said, to the war. To the choice. Rex chimed in again. We've arrived at the coordinates you requested, preparing surface descent. Warning. Political entanglement levels currently at spicy. I took another sip. Define spicy. You're being welcomed as an emissary of balance by one faction and a walking threat by another. Standard Tuesday. Vela put a hand on my shoulder. You don't have to go down there. I smiled faintly. I've been claimed by an alien warrior, chased by assassins, yelled at by a metal fish, and had reality fold around me like a bad sweater. I might as well see this through. We landed on a mountaintop base surrounded by strange trees and paranoid diplomacy. A delegation met us. Jura, human, even a few other species I didn't recognize but waved at anyway. One of them nodded. The others recoiled. Progress. Trask was there, of course, wearing a uniform so freshly pressed it practically insulted your wrinkles. You made it, he said. You doubted. I took bets. Who won? No one. The pool was based on how you'd explode. I clapped him on the shoulder. You're a terrible friend. I'm a practical one. Vela and I stepped onto the platform where the peace talks were set to begin. I wasn't there to speak. I was there to stand. As the beacon, I was proof the echo field could be survived, channeled even, that its power didn't have to corrupt. The Creed delegates eyed me like I might sneeze and unravel the universe. Which, to be fair, I wasn't entirely sure couldn't happen. Vela stood beside me. Her presence spoke more than any words. The Creed had tried to erase her. The Ascendancy had abandoned her. And yet here she was, alive, still armed, and apparently dating a human with questionable hygiene. Talks began. Voices rose. Accusations flew like poorly aimed darts. But they kept talking. That was the victory. Hours later, as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, Vela and I walked alone. "You think they'll stop fighting?" I asked. "Not forever," she said, "but maybe long enough to remember why they started." We sat on a stone overlooking the valley. I pulled out a ration bar, offered her one, she sniffed it. "This one is not glowing." "That's what we call progress." She accepted it. "You've changed," she said. "So have you." She hesitated. "You are still mine." I nodded, "And you're still